Welcome back to Self-Care Tuesday. I'm your host, Pastor P, and I'm here with Jessica Squared, and they're waiting on me to say it. All right, so every time I want you to introduce yourself because we got new people following us.
Hey everyone, I'm Jessica Jones, owner of Grace Counseling and Consulting in Hernando, Mississippi. I am a licensed professional counselor, so contact me if you need me.
Hey everybody, I'm Jessica Reed. I'm the owner of Reed Counseling and Consulting. We are located in South Haven off Getwell Road. I'm also a licensed professional counselor, and we are excited to get into the topic of Part 2 of self-care tonight.
Part two. And once again, I'm Pastor P. All I am is the online campus pastor. You come to me for spiritual counseling, and we're going to stop it there, all right? But if we look at how we get into what's going on tonight, Jessica has the right shirt on. So it's Jesus.
It's the shirt for me.
Plus therapy equals healing. All right. So that's
Shout out to Tierra.
There you go. Tierra, thank you so much for this. So as we look at PTSD Awareness Month, and as we look at Jesus plus therapy equals healing, we kind of wanted to get into that next level of self-care, right? So we kind of talked about a few things. And so y'all can kind of recap whatever it is from the last one, but then kind of take us into that next level.
Yeah, so last month we discussed that self-care is not selfish, and you have a right to take care of yourself.
Absolutely.
And we also discussing the boundaries of communicating your self-care needs, and however they may look for you at that moment. Sometimes we have big, lofty goals, but they may be too overwhelming for us. So slicing it down and making it something feasible for us to do when it comes to self-care.
I think you covered that part, so I can bring us into to tonight.
Right.
We're going to talk about, so last episode we talked about some external ways of self-care like massage and get your nails done and go out of town and hang out. But tonight we want to talk a little bit more about the intimate experience of internal self-care. So we'll look at like mindset shifts, like internal habits, self-compassion, forgiveness, and healing. These are things that we want to dive into that if you don't have money, if you can't leave your house, you can still offer something that is a form of love to you. That's the kind of the basis of self-care. Like it's loving on yourself and taking care of yourself in the best way.
Yeah, and I think people get away from just that inward self-care because sometimes it's not what we are used to.
Right.
A lot of times it's not what people are used to, that looking inside, that positive self-talk, making sure that our self-esteem and self-value is in line so that we are in a space that we can practice good self-care.
Yeah. And I think when you think about, like, what are some internal ways to know that I could be looking inwardly, I think about imposter syndrome. I think about, and so imposter syndrome is basically like, you got the job, but you're like, did I deserve the job? Did they give it to me because of my ability or because, I was a token, whatever. Anything outside of your worth as a person, you kind of second guess like your achievements. Self-sabotage, right? So you really don't see the value in you getting good things and achieving good things. And so subconsciously you disrupt that. Like people get in cycles of sabotage all the time. I want a healthy relationship, but I can't quite seem to snag one. I stay in these disruptive places and I don't know why. Like there's a part of that experience that keeps us back because we are sabotaging it, right?
Yeah. I think that brings me to like the thought of how we value ourselves. And sometimes we really have to take inventory of how we value ourselves and really acknowledging what we bring to the table, the skills that we have that, again, that imposter syndrome may say, okay, I know this, but I don't know it well enough to apply for this job. I don't know it well enough to speak to this group of people. But when you take a step back, or if you were, let's say, thinking about the next person, you're like, oh yeah, go ahead on, apply for that. Like, that'll be perfect. But sometimes when we're talking to ourselves, it's like, no, I don't think I could do it.
Yeah. So when we think about, I think, in internal self-doubt, I'm doing your job now. I'm like, what are some ways?
Go ahead. You're doing a great job.
What are some ways that we can probably share with our listeners to kind of disrupt that cycle?
I think one of them is really, truly acknowledging like your wins that you've had, acknowledging the positive things that you've done, the positive experiences that you've had, how you treat people, even that is just a booster in your self-esteem to say, you know what, I really am a nice person. Like I'm good to people. I try to be good to people. That self-doubt will make you think like, oh, I'm mean all the time, or they must not like me because of this. When the reality is, if we're smiling to people, and other people would describe us as nice and caring and giving, but in our mind, we're so locked in on just that negative self-talk that we've just kind of been stuck in that rut of doing. So some of it would be like that thought blocking, or immediately stopping the negative self-talk that we find ourselves doing. I always tell my clients, sometimes we have to show people how to treat us. Right. Wow. And so when we're constantly talking negative about ourselves, we're teaching them to talk negative about us.
Or to see us in that light.
To see us in a negative light. And then we get offended. But then, did you watch how you talked about yourself? You gave them permission to talk to you that way because that's how you talk to yourself.
Yeah. So self-doubt, and I think the way you just described it is definitely a form of self-care. Like, I love a good gratitude practice. Like, listing out your wins can help you keep a balanced perspective. It's really good even with problem solving, because if you have a challenge, a good form of self-care is like, well, what strengths did I learn about myself the last time I was in the challenge? How can I use that now versus anxiety coming in and saying, this ain't gonna work. Oh my God. Like, usually we're so anxious that we don't do anything. Right. So like, if you can get a good inward, like a positive relationship with yourself, I think it can help you kind of maneuver some challenges a little bit easier.
So you got to celebrate and acknowledge the wins, no matter how big or small.
Yep.
All right. You got to have some of that internal self-care. All right. And I heard from you all maybe taking away a lot of stuff. So I understand, I may not have it right here, but don't talk negative about yourself. What's the imposter syndrome, making sure that you're not speaking that out. Now, I guess my job here is to make it super churchy. 1 Corinthians 6:19-20. Don't you realize that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit?
Yeah.
So if our bodies are the temple of the Holy Spirit, we got to have some internal self-care kind of for the believer, right? So I know a lot of times we're talking in general, but for the believer, what does self-care look like even in ministry work or church work or maybe not working?
Yeah. Well, I want to give a disclaimer about the negative self-talk. So that is normal.
It is.
We are definitely going to have lots of those. However, keeping a balanced perspective of that, or not letting it be the foundation in which you look at yourself. Just like anxiety, a little bit of that can help us kind of be motivated and disrupt, and it's not uncommon for us to second guess ourselves. But if you find that is keeping you from like achieving things, setting goals, making changes, then you probably want to assess the power of your talk. And if we're looking at it from a spiritual standpoint, the power of your words, like in speaking life and those kind of things. So I think from a spiritual standpoint, for the believer, it's purpose. It's thinking about what you were called to do, believing in the abilities that God has given you to carry out these things. Sometimes when you're a visionary or a dreamer, or God puts something in your heart, you get scared. You be like, not me. Ain't no way. Look at my history. You want me to do that? You think these people going to listen to me? But internal self-care says, wait, I trust this process. And even when I doubt myself, I know that God is putting these things in my heart or in my path so that I can give him glory, serve my community, whatever that looks like. And I'm going to trust in that.
I think of, it's like we're made in his image, right? And when we think of that self-doubt and that negative self-talk, and sometimes just the negative beliefs we have about ourselves.
Or that somebody else have given to us.
Right, that they have implanted in our, mind about ourselves. Sometimes you have to remember, like, I was made in his image, and he's not bad. He's good.
There you go.
And therefore, I'm good. And, I think that's a way, yes, negative self-talk is normal, but we have ways to combat that. And sometimes it goes back to the foundation. Hold on. What did God say?
I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Wait a minute. Let me check myself.
And I don't believe he's wrong.
Right.
So I must be fearfully and wonderfully made. I must be good. I am able to do good things.
Yes. And I think, so piggybacking on what you said in the beginning about, I'm tying this into trauma since, June is the PTSD awareness.
Absolutely.
if you have experienced a traumatic event and your belief system about yourself or the world or people has been inherently negative because you have more negative experiences, it's not unlikely that you're going to have to work through some negative self-talk, some strong beliefs around trusting other people, your worth, and your abilities, right? And that's where sometimes working with a professional can be really helpful in filtering through the roots of that. Because as a child, I could have believed the world wasn't safe, people can be trusted, and as an adult, that manifests in how I show up and take care of myself in the things that I do.
And even I'm thinking about, like EMDR. It's the modality of therapy. It helps to disrupt those negative cognitions that we have when we have experienced a traumatic event, and now our brain is tying that negative cognition to us personally. So this happened to me because I'm a bad person. And your brain is getting stuck because of this traumatic event that has happened. And so working, like she said, sometimes you do have to work with a professional to get through those negative cognitions, and sometimes it won't always be pleasant at the beginning, during the work, but it will be rewarding once you go through the process.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think, a slow and steady process. And like for anybody that's a visual learner, when Jessica mentioned like the cognitions, think about a spider web.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
All those little lines are our cognitions.
Okay.
So like the middle, it's usually like a solid middle is maybe the event. And all these other things are things that happened in our life. They're all connected to this one thing. So instead of us looking at this one line and letting it be, somebody cut me off, that cognition is connected to this root, which was a big event of something else. I am a bad person. I'm incapable. And it's reinforcing it every time. And you get another neuron and another neuron. And that's why it's hard to challenge those. Sometimes they feel true in the moment. You'll go toe to toe with somebody about, those things because there have been so many experiences that have reinforced that. But the same way it can be reinforced negatively, it can be positively with some internal self-care. Yeah.
So let me ask, I guess, some clarity. Hopefully I'm asking the question you want to hear out there. So when we look at that, because I am a staunch advocate against church hurt. I believe it's just trauma you experience in church, and it's sometimes a crutch maybe to exit from church. The other side of that is, could the people that are perpetrating the church hurt be a part of some of the stuff that you're talking about now? Now, I know I'm taking it back to the church arena because church hurt seems to be a very big issue, even though I sometimes think it's a non-issue.
So your question is, does church hurt impact can the experience of church hurt be really a cluster of somebody's unresolved trauma?
Maybe. All right. I'm not saying the person that's saying I'm hurt. I'm saying the people that are constantly doing the hurting.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Okay, I get you. So you're saying like those behaviors, those outward experiences are related to their own cluster.
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I think we're keeping it for church, yes, but anyone that has had some pain, they say all the time, hurt people, right?
Yeah.
But I also say healed people heal people.
Okay.
Right? So if we can hurt each other, we can heal each other as well. And so I think addressing from a spiritual standpoint the emotional and mental challenges that come along with church hurt is something that's really important for the church to do ongoing, because nobody in the church is perfect. Outside of these doors, we are all human, and
capable
and flawed,
of making mistakes.
right? And so knowing and accepting that knows that like even unintentionally sometimes we might hurt each other. And if we don't have really good communication skills, conflict resolution, it's going to hurt. And sometimes those hurt might feel or be intentional. And sometimes it's best for us to no longer engage in the way that we have been. Gotcha. But I think, some of the large part in what I've heard about different church hurt, and even trauma, it's not what happened to the person. Usually it's the lack of support that they received after the hurt. There you go. So when we think about it from a communal standpoint of a spiritual, like church and congregation, how are we supporting the victims that are hurting? How are we supporting the people that are consistently doing the hurting to reduce that? Like, I think spiritually we have a responsibility to address that and manage that in the best ways.
Because I think of the acknowledgement. If someone is saying, I'm hurt because of this, I would want to feel heard. Or if I say, you know what, Pastor Petty, you hurt me because you did this and you did that. Right. Finding some way to communicate that. To say, oh, it wasn't intentional, or I realized I did this and I'm sorry, versus just saying, no, I didn't, and then that continues to push along the narrative of that church hurt, because when the next person says it, and now you got this snowball effect.
Where people ultimately are leaving because they felt either dismissed or that they weren't valued enough. Like, okay, they don't care about me because they keep hurting me. And then not only do I don't feel like they care about me, ain't nobody helping me deal with this. Right. So I'm out of here. Yeah. Right? So I definitely think that part is true when you think about it that way. Like, empathy and validation go a long way. And I think for the people that are hurt, we have a responsibility to let people, to give that pain a voice. Right? Okay. Mm-hmm. People can't know what they don't know. So you might passive aggressively say, I'm giving you the cold shoulder. That might not connect with me that you're giving it to me because of what I did last week. Yeah. I might look at that and say, oh, they're having a bad day. All right, I'm going to get them some grace. And we on the wrong page.
You can't fix the problem if you don't know what's
the
problem.
You cannot. So going back to the acknowledgement piece, like, it's important to acknowledge I'm hurt and then communicate that. So if we're thinking about it from a spiritual standpoint, we are trusting that we can work through that. And then the Bible says, you tell a person, you don't listen to them. Like, there's a process,
right,
for spiritual conflict resolution in the Bible.
Right. And you see, so I don't know if this is where y'all intended to go, but this is where I'm at, because a lot of times I find out that's the root. Pastor always teaches that pride is at every conflict. There is pride at the
so
at
much,
the center.
and ego, yeah,
ego too. And so, but a lot of times people don't know you're hurt. So, and I'm glad you said that, because I'm very straightforward naturally. I'm very blunt. And sometimes I've offended people.
Unknowingly.
Right. And then the minute you tell me, like, I'm immediately apologizing. I'm trying to make it better. I'm even writing it down in my notes, like, don't say this to that this way, but how do I get past that if you never tell me?
Right. Yeah. And that takes, I think, your ability to get it right off the table, which isn't fair, because if somebody offends us, I think it's fair to give them space to rectify that, if within reason. Yeah. Okay, I'm not saying extreme cases and all that stuff, but if you hurt me and I know enough or had enough experiences with you to say, wait a minute, they don't usually show up that way.
Right.
That's worth exploring and being curious about, like, what was happening, and maybe they didn't know that they hurt me. So assume that they don't know, and they need you to tell them.
Now, I heard it from them.
Come
on, Jess.
I think a lot of people, we take things so personal sometimes, and we think that, like, we're targeted. And I love how you said, give that hurt a voice, because once you say, you really hurt me, and I feel like you did this on purpose or whatever, you could be, like you said, just something totally unintentional. You could be working on a million things in your mind, and you didn't speak to me that one day, and now I'm thinking, oh, she ain't never liked me. Like, look at that, and here we go, and now I have this whole narrative that I'm working off of.
Look, wait, so let's slow this part down.
Wow.
You ain't never liked me anyway goes back to that negative self-talk that has nothing to do with the person that offended you, but that hurt made
that
you
I'm unlikable. Yes. Why would anyone like me? Why would anyone love me?
Yes, and the second part of that is, if you speak up early, frequently as you can, because if not, that narrative will get so strong because you locked in on why they did it and all that. So by the time you address it with them, there's more defensiveness because you are convinced that their intentions were not good.
Absolutely.
And that it was personal.
Yeah.
Now, if I told you as soon as it happened, I don't have enough time to really sit and assume and make that truth if I give you space. Like, oh, you hurt me. Oh, I didn't mean to. Got it. Yeah. But a month of me thinking and spiraling
and me giving you the cold shoulder because of it.
I done switched it up.
Now we deeper. We deeper.
I done switched it up in the person like, I don't even know what happened.
Right. Completely unaware of what's going on.
Yes.
And that's how we get so deep sometimes into the church hurt. Because we didn't took it. So we didn't give it a voice early. We didn't,
acknowledge it.
We didn't acknowledge it. We didn't communicate anything. We just let it go and we let it build and we let it build.
And the second part of that is if this happened and this is my strong narrative, now I'm bracing.
Right.
So maybe I join another ministry and I don't tell this person. the minute something feels similar, I'm telling myself the same thing. They don't like me either. They
I'm gonna stop going to church because you know what? Everybody the same. Everybody the same.
All right.
When it was this first experience that could have been handled, with a little bit of communication. Communication goes a long way. It saves relationships, and it's something that is a learned skill. So if you're
Absolutely.
like listening to this and you're like, I don't know how to tell nobody I'm upset. Well, a lot of us grew up in spaces where our feelings were not validated and dismissed. And it's something you have to learn to do. Like, I deserve to tell somebody that they hurt me.
Right.
I ain't got to sit with it. But that's some work for a different
self-care right there.
Yes.
To acknowledge I deserve to communicate how I feel, and I don't have to sit with this negativity.
And not by myself. Because if we're thinking from a spiritual standpoint of people being good and their good intentions, then I'm assuming that you didn't try to hurt me. Right.
On the front side.
On the front side. Like, I'm trusting that did not come from an ill will place. And sometimes it does. But I think assuming the good intentions on the front end can save you some of that unnecessary hurt until you got all the real facts. Now, if it's factual, yes. But, I mean, a form of like internal self-care is like protecting your heart. I don't want my blood pressure up, not being able to talk to you for a week, ignoring you at church, sitting in a different space, and we ain't even talked about it.
Right.
If I got to switch my behavior, it is valuable enough for me to tell you what's up.
Absolutely. Well, and that kind of runs concurrent with some, the books that we're kind of reading. We're reading through Crucial Conversations.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we are at our worst in conversations when we have the most crucial conversation necessary. And so the book not only talks about it, but it talks about it's a learned behavior. So it's a skill you can develop. But the first thing you got to do is stop avoiding the crucial conversation, right?
Well, I don't know. Did y'all watch 8 o'clock service? I went to 8 o'clock service with Dr. Is this Gregory? He talked about that in a really clear way, and if you haven't looked, I'm plugging, like, go check out 8 o'clock service. But yeah, I think that's something that you could benefit from looking at that way, for sure.
And see, so and y'all just don't know how much y'all be helping me, because early in my career, especially on the management side, is like, I know you have feelings, I know you want to be heard, but we have an objective, right? And sometimes your feelings may not fit into the objective. And so as managers, I got a goal, I'm running roughshod over your feelings. Not intentional, but that's what happens. Now my go-to phrase, and it's probably not even better, but your feelings are valid, but that doesn't make them factual.
Right, that's true.
That's true.
All right, and what I'm evolving to is like, let's let you be heard, and you'll be amazed when people get to share
when they feel seen and heard.
on.
Absolutely.
And you be sitting there like, if I just line this up maybe by the Bible or even the Associate Handbook, you're wrong. But
I understand. I see
feelings.
Right. Looking through that lens and going back, like in 8 o'clock, he talked about being comfortable in discomfort. And that has been like my mantra for this whole year. Like, I'm trying to lean more into scary things, hard things, because once your body learns that, like, you can be okay and safe in there, it makes it easier to have crucial conversation. It don't mean it ain't gonna be complicated, or it still might not be anxiety provoking, but you can tolerate or try to tolerate difficult conversations. They lead you to the other side. Yeah, like they really do.
And I think the 8 o'clock service, for those out there, you're going back on demand. I want to say it's April 23rd at 8 a.m. is the service she's talking about, where Dr. Joel broke that down for us. So, see there, I did pay attention. I was paying attention to church.
I got to go back and watch.
You got to go back
and watch Saturday service.
Yeah, Dr. Parks over there on Saturday. So, now, I know you had some stuff on your phone. I'm calling it out there.
I did.
Yeah.
And we were going to talk about it.
Yeah, in the last few minutes here, I just want y'all to, and y'all been doing an excellent job, but just kind of give us some of that checklist there. This is going to be good. Y'all get this. Take some notes.
So there are 6 types that we looking at on Jessica's phone. I'm going to do 3. You can do 3.
Okay,
right?
let's go for it.
So self-care checklist. So last time we talked about some physical ways, right? And so this is where we look at reclaiming your power through healthy diet. You guys have the challenge going on. Right. Everything you're doing in that challenge goes under the physical self-care, like how I eat, getting my body moving, going to the doctor regularly, checking up, exercising, resting after work. That's a really good one.
I like that.
Rest when you are sick. Ooh. I'm still learning that sometimes. Giving yourself permission to rest. When you are sick, do not, I'm going to push it through. Take a day off
Not
or
even
pause.
when you're sick. I scheduled a rest day yesterday. Just a rest day.
Every
You ain't
manager
gotta
is
be
out there
sick.
cringing, but we agree.
And it makes, as a man, you might make space to normalize that because
Right.
you need that too.
Absolutely.
Right. And so thinking about that from a physical standpoint, anything that's going to help you physically thrive. And so whatever that looks like for you, because we do want to acknowledge that self-care is different for everybody. Like I hate running. Some people love running. I will walk. I will go outside in nature. But I am not doing a 5K.
I'm not going to run.
I will walk in that cause and be passionate, but that's about it. So that's one of the physical ones.
All right.
Go back and forth, I guess.
So we got psychological. We mentioned. Did we mention last taping practicing a hobby, finding a hobby, finding things that you enjoy, that you really enjoy. A caveat.
Golf.
We also said, alcohol and marijuana. While they make you feel good, they're not self-care.
This
okay?
is
I'm just
twice
gonna put
this
that
has
out
been
there.
said.
That's so
The
taboo.
preacher didn't say it.
People gonna be like, whatever, that is self-care because it relaxes me, and then I don't go off on people. And however, it is a form of coping. Yes,
It's coping.
but
Not self-care.
the adverse effects, like the cost versus the benefit, does
Right.
not weigh out.
Because whatever the issue was that you were avoiding, it's still gonna be
It's
there.
still there.
And not only is it still going to be there, the next time it happens and triggers, it's going to be a little bit more than it was last time because you ain't addressed it.
Right. You're stacking.
All right, practicing something new, learning something new. We discuss reading. Doesn't have to be you have to read a chapter a day. You can slice it down, make it manageable. Challenging yourself to do something new.
That's a good internal self-care.
Being creative.
That's
Yeah.
nice.
This one even says no screen hour.
Yes.
Stepping away from the screens and just having a moment to just work inwardly.
Right.
And I know that's something we're not used to.
Right.
And
that
the
we're not
way,
used to.
Let the reels go.
or schedule time for the reels. Have some boundaries with it, day and time or something like that.
TikTok boundaries. Okay.
Yes.
Definitely practice patience with yourself.
Gotcha.
yeah.
Oh,
That's a
here's
real-
the one you wanted to do.
Okay. Spiritual self-care. Yes. All of these are good. Okay, so we talked about some of these already. So your mindset, I would add like prayer, meditation is on here. This is where you're going to look at your morals and values, like what's important to you and why. How do you see yourself as a person, see life? How do you see life? Like people, do you see God in nature? Do you see, good things? Like when you look out, like that kind of thing, I think is really helpful. Finding meaning. So that is a really good, I think, spiritual self-care because meaning is going to impact our belief systems and ultimately how we think about ourselves in the world. So when you think about that from a form of self-care, like the way you would assign meaning to things is going to be really important to how you feel.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Observe your thoughts. We focused on that a little bit. Participate in a cause.
Wow.
Yes. Volunteering is really, really great for managing a lot of mental health symptoms, and it's a great form of self-care because it keeps you in a space of knowing that you have value, you can give back to something or someone, and there's something outside of you that's important. And so I think from a spiritual standpoint, that's really, really good. Good list.
And y'all about halfway through y'all list? Okay. In that last minute, they finna give y'all some nuggets here. Watch this. Y'all ready? Get ready. Don't die. Don't die.
So emotionally, spending time with loved ones, reflecting, having a time period to reflect on your day or reflect on your week. What did you like? What went positive? What went negative that you'd like to change in the future?
That's that decompression we talked about when you in a
There
car.
you go.
Before
did.
you go in, that's
In 32 minutes.
That's some self-care.
Express your feelings and give yourself permission to feel your feelings, to be able to sit with those. Laugh, some affirmations, positive self-talk, respect yourself, and stress management.
Yes. So from an emotional standpoint, I think that's helpful. And since we run it down, I ain't gonna say else about that. All right. Social. I'm a really social person, so I love getting filled by hanging out with people or places that really like make me feel like life is just easy and flowing. And so social self-care is not just, always going out, but it's spending time with people that you love or enjoying spending time with yourself. Like that's really important. If you're not comfortable doing that, that could be a form of social self-care. Like, how do I spend time with me? Like, am I comfortable doing things by myself, or do I have to have someone else? Staying in contact. This is really good in terms of combating like isolation and things like that. I'm going to be connected to people or things outside of myself as a good form of self-care. Meaningful dialogue, we kind of touched on that. So what are you saying? How are you saying it? How are you thinking about it and speaking it to others? So from a spiritual standpoint, life and death, like the power of the tongue, having fun together, whatever that looks like for you. Asking and offering help. I know asking help might need to be a whole episode. Asking and offering help, receiving and letting those relationships be reciprocal. And know that if you're going hard for people, it's only right that the people in your space, you give them permission to go hard for you too.
Right.
A lot of times we don't give them permission because we don't want to be disappointed, but that's a whole nother thing. Meeting new people. I love meeting new people. I do not. I don't believe in no new friends. I'll make a new friend. I'll be 100 years old. I'll make a new friend. I love meeting new people, but I'm also I'm an extrovert, so that makes sense. So I think from a social standpoint, some of the ways I do that is like I randomly smile at people. Yeah. I'm not weird. I just like kindness is free, and happiness is contagious. Like for the most part, So spread that part of you that you feel good about as a form of self-care.
I feel like you spread love, you receive love.
Absolutely,
you give it and you get it. Okay, last one. Professionally, stay in the loop.
Absolutely,
staying productive. Continue to work on your skills, improve your skills. We talk about improvement like in the physical, but also improvement like professionally as well, going to the trainings,
mentorship.
Give yourself an opportunity to elevate.
Yes.
That's it.
Y'all got the 6 list here. We're gonna have to put it on the screen because there was a lot of good stuff. But that's what we need here. I mean, I thank you all so much for just tuning in. If you got any questions or comments, please just put them in the comment line. Chat us. You can reach us at pastorpetty@brownbaptist.org. So if you got something that you want to talk about individually, we definitely want to do that for you. Thank Jessica Squared, and we're going to end this how we started. Jesus plus therapy equals healing.
I'm getting y'all these shirts. These
shirts here.
She's going to be selling these shirts.
And her agent says they $20 out the door. I'm already put a price on there for you. That's where I can help, man. Y'all take it easy. Until next time, thank y'all so much for joining us. Self-Care Tuesday. Brown everywhere.